There are moments, rare, undeniable moments when everything pauses, not on the outside, but deep within you. A sudden stillness, a strange pull, a feeling you cannot explain, yet you cannot ignore. And this right here is one of those moments. You were not scrolling casually. You were not searching randomly. You were led here, interrupted, chosen. Because something in your life has been shifting lately, hasn't it? You felt it in the quiet hours when your mind refuses to rest. You've noticed it in conversations where something just feels off. You've sensed it in your spirit like you're standing on the edge of something, but you can't quite see what it is yet. And maybe you tried to brush it off. Maybe you told yourself, it's just stress. Maybe you said, I'm overthinking again. Maybe you tried to distract yourself, to drown out that inner voice whispering, pay attention. But the truth is that voice never left. Because it wasn't anxiety. It wasn't imagination. It was activation. And now heaven has stepped in. This is not just a message. This is a divine interruption. The kind that breaks through noise. The kind that stops you mid-scroll. The kind that feels strangely personal, like someone is speaking directly to you about you for you. Because they are. You see, long before this moment, something was already set into motion concerning your path, decisions you've made, doors that opened, doors that closed, people who entered, people who distanced themselves. None of it has been random. It has all been positioning. But here's what makes this moment different. You are now approaching a turning point, and not the kind you can casually walk past. This is the kind of moment where one choice shifts everything, where one decision redirects your future, where one act of awareness protects what you didn't even realize was at risk. That's why this cannot wait. That's why you feel this urgency rising in your chest right now, even if you don't fully understand it yet. Because something is about to unfold. Something that will either align your path or alter it completely. And heaven is not willing to let you walk into it unaware. So instead you were stopped. Well, positioned right here, right now. Let me ask you something, and answer honestly, not with your mind, but with that quiet voice inside you. Have you been feeling like something is about to change but you don't know what? Have you sensed distance from things that once felt normal? Have you noticed that certain people, conversations, or environments suddenly feel heavier or harder to tolerate? That's not coincidence. That is separation beginning. Because before elevation there is always disruption. Before clarity there is always confusion being exposed. Before breakthrough there is always a moment where everything feels uncertain. And that is exactly where you are standing right now. On the edge. Not of love but of revelation. Not of chaos but of realignment. Not of fear but of truth finally coming into the light. But here's what you must understand: moments like this don't last forever. There is a window open right now. A spiritual window, where insight is being released, where protection is being positioned, where guidance is being offered, and windows can close. That's why this message found you now, not later. Because later might be too late to see clearly. Later might come after decisions are already made. Later might mean reacting instead of being prepared. So instead, you were chosen to hear this before it happens. Before the shift becomes visible. Before the truth becomes obvious. Before the path divines. You are being given awareness in advance. And awareness changes everything. Because when you see clearly, you move differently. When you understand, you don't react, you respond. When you are aligned, you don't panic, you stand. And that is what heaven is calling you into. Not fear, not confusion, but preparedness. You are not here to be surprised. You are not here to be shaken. You are not here to be caught off guard. You are here to be ready. Because what comes next will test your focus. It will test your discernment. It will test whether you follow emotion or instruction. In this moment right now, this is your warning and your advantage. So don't rush past this. Don't treat this like just another message. Don't silence the part of you that knows this feels different. Because it is. You are standing in a moment that was written before you arrived here. And the fact that you're still reading the fact that something inside you is leaning in instead of pulling away, that is confirmation. You were meant to hear this. And this is only the beginning. Type "I am ready" in the comments if you receive this message. Blessing code 1717 is now surrounding you. There is a timing in the spirit that does not follow human clocks, and you are standing inside of it right now. This is not about minutes or hours as you understand them, but about alignment, about divine synchronization, about a moment that has been building behind the scenes long before you became aware of it. And now that moment has arrived, pressing against your life with a quiet intensity that refuses to be ignored. You may not see everything yet, but you can feel it. A tightening, a quickening, a sense that something is moving faster than before. This is the urgency of heaven, and it is not sent to overwhelm you. It is sent to awaken you. You have delayed certain things before, haven't you? You have told yourself there would be more time. You have felt a nudge in your spirit and chose to wait, to think, to analyze, to come back to it later. And in many moments, the delay seemed harmless. Nothing dramatic happened. Life continued. But this moment is not like those moments. This is not a suggestion you can revisit at your convenience. This is not a whisper you can silence and return to when it feels comfortable. This is a divine instruction wrapped in urgency, because what stands ahead of you is not neutral. It will respond to your awareness or your absence, to your obedience or your hesitation. Heaven is not rushing you out of fear. It is calling you forward out of necessity. There are movements happening around your path right now that are time-sensitive. Conversations are forming. Decisions are being made. Doors are preparing to open or close, and all of it is connected to where you are positioned in this exact moment. If you remain passive, if you drift, if you ignore what your spirit is trying to show you, you risk stepping out of alignment with what was meant for you. Not because it was taken from you, but because timing was missed. And timing, in the spiritual realm, carries weight that cannot always be recovered the same way. This is why you feel that internal pressure building, that sense that you cannot treat this casually. It is not anxiety, it is awareness accelerating. It is your spirit recognizing that something requires your attention now, not later. You may not have all the answers yet, and you are not expected to. But you are expected to respond, to become alert, to stop moving through your days on autopilot and begin moving with intention. Because what is unfolding next will not wait for you to catch up. It will move, with or without your readiness. And yet, this urgency is not meant to scare you. It is meant to position you. Because when you respond in the moment, when you choose awareness over distraction, when you lean into what you feel instead of dismissing it, you step into alignment with a protection that many ignore. You begin to see what others overlook. You begin to sense what others miss. You begin to move with a clarity that keeps you from walking into situations that were never meant to touch you. This is the advantage of obedience in real time. There is also something else you must understand. Delay does not always look like rebellion. Sometimes it looks like comfort. Sometimes it looks like routine. Sometimes it feels like staying where things are familiar because it is easier than confronting what is changing. But comfort can become a trap when it keeps you from responding to what is necessary. And right now, you are being pulled out of that comfort, not to harm you, but to prepare you. Because what comes next will require a version of you that is awake, discerning, and willing to act without hesitation. You are not being asked to rush blindly. You are being asked to listen deeply, to recognize that this moment carries weight, to understand that what you do next matters more than you realize. There are patterns that are trying to repeat, and there are opportunities that are trying to emerge, and your awareness will determine which one you align with. This is why heaven is pressing in with urgency, because it sees both paths clearly, even if you do not yet. So do not ignore this stirring. Do not postpone what you are feeling. Do not tell yourself you will think about it later. Later is not guaranteed to carry the same clarity, the same protection, the same positioning that is available to you right now. You are being invited into alignment in real time, into a moment where your response has the power to shift what unfolds next in your life. This is not pressure without purpose. This is urgency with intention. Stand still within yourself, but do not remain passive. Become aware, become attentive, become willing to move when you are led. Because heaven is not late, and it is not early. It is precise. And right now, it is calling you to match that precision with your response. What you choose in this moment will echo into what comes next, and that is why this cannot wait. Type "I move in divine timing" in the comments if you receive this message. Blessing code 2020 is now activated around your path. There are moments when the atmosphere shifts so profoundly that even if your physical eye see nothing, your spirit recognizes that something greater has entered the space. This is one of those moments, because now, the message is no longer just a warning carried on a gentle whisper. Now, it carries authority. And now, it carries presence. And now, it carries the unmistakable weight of divine intervention. Archangel Michael has stepped forward, not symbolically, not distantly, but intentionally, with a voice that does not tremble, does not hesitate, and does not speak without purpose. His arrival is not random. He does not appear in moments of comfort or convenience. He arrives when there is movement in the spiritual realm that requires protection, when there is a shift unfolding that demands clarity, when there is a path that must be guarded because what is approaching holds consequence. And right now, your path has drawn his attention, not because you are in danger beyond hope, but because you are at a point where what happens next matters more than you can fully see. You may have felt this presence before without naming it. That sudden stillness in the middle of confusion. That unexplainable pause before making a decision. That inner resistance when something did not feel right, even when it looked right on the surface. That was not coincidence. That was intervention. That was protection moving quietly, preventing what you could not yet recognize. And now, that same protection is no longer silent. It is speaking directly. Archangel Michael does not come with vague impressions. He comes with clarity. He comes with instruction. He comes with a firmness that cuts through doubt and forces awareness. And his message to you in this moment is simple, yet weighty. You must pay attention now more than ever before. Not casually, not partially, but fully. Because what is unfolding around you is layered. There are things that appear one way but carry another intention beneath the surface. There are conversations that seem ordinary but hold deeper implications. There are opportunities that look promising but require discernment before acceptance. This is why his presence matters. Because where there is confusion, he brings separation. Where there is deception, he brings exposure. Where there is vulnerability, He establishes protection. But protection is not passive. It requires your participation. It requires your awareness. It requires you to listen when something within you says stop, pause, or step back. Because that inner signal is not coming from fear. It is coming from alignment with the guidance being released over you right now. You are not being left to navigate this moment alone. That is the truth you must hold on to. Even if people around you seem distant, even if clarity feels incomplete, even if you are still trying to understand what exactly is changing, you are not unguarded. There is a covering over your path that is intentional and precise. But that covering does not remove your responsibility. It sharpens it. It calls you to move differently, to observe more closely, to trust what you sense even when you cannot explain it logically. There is also something else that must be said clearly. Archangel Michael does not operate in confusion, and neither should you. If something feels misaligned, do not force it into place. If something creates internal resistance, do not override it for the sake of comfort or convenience. If something feels rushed in a way that removes your clarity, step back. Because pressure without peace is not guidance. And in this moment, you are being led toward clarity, not confusion. You may notice in the coming hours or days that situations begin to reveal themselves more clearly. Words that once seemed harmless may carry new meaning. Actions that once seemed insignificant may suddenly stand out. This is not your imagination increasing. This is your awareness sharpening. This is what happens when protection becomes active and visible in your life. You begin to see what you previously overlooked. You begin to understand what once felt unclear. And you begin to move with a sense of grounded certainty that cannot be easily shaken. But you must remain steady. Because when truth begins to surface, it can tempt you to react quickly, to confront immediately, to respond emotionally. And that is where many lose their position. Not because they lacked guidance, but because they acted before fully understanding what was being revealed. You are not being called to react. You are being called to observe, to discern, and to move with intention when the moment is right. Archangel Michael stands not only as a protector, but as a separator of what belongs and what does not. And right now, that separation is beginning to take place in your life. Not loudly, not dramatically, but deliberately. You may feel distance where there was once closeness. You may feel clarity where there was once confusion. You may feel a shift in your priorities that others do not understand. That is part of the process. That is part of the protection. Not everything is meant to go with you into what comes next. So remain aware. Remain grounded. Remain aligned with what you feel in your spirit rather than what appears comfortable on the surface. Because you are being guided through a moment that carries weight, and that guidance is not ikaki. It is intentional, it is protective, and it is active right now. Type "I stand in divine protection" in the comments if you receive this message. Blessing code 3030 is now surrounding your path. As you stand in this moment of divine protection, understand that what you are receiving is not meant to stop with you. Every message, every revelation, every awakening carries the potential to reach another soul standing at the same crossroads you once faced. When you choose to support this mission through super thanks with a PayPal link in the description, you are not giving to a channel. You are sowing into a harvest of transformation that heaven is preparing in the lives of others. The word declares that when you release, it is returned to you, pressed down, shaken together, and running over. And this is not distant truth. It is a living promise active in your life right now. I feel led to say this clearly. Your seed in this moment becomes light in someone else's darkness, and that light multiplies beyond what you can see. Do not hesitate. Do not delay, because obedience carries timing, and timing carries blessing. As you give, you align yourself with the very flow that is protecting and guiding you now. Step into this moment and release what you are led to release. There is something already in motion around you, something that did not begin the moment you heard this message, but long before it reached your awareness. It has been subtle, almost unnoticeable at first, moving beneath the surface of your daily life, quietly rearranging things in ways you could not fully see. And yet, if you pause and reflect, you will recognize that something has felt different lately. Not dramatically at first, not loudly, but consistently. A shift in energy, a shift in perspective, a shift in how certain things no longer sit the same within you. That is not your imagination. That is the hidden shift beginning to reveal itself. You may have noticed that conversations you once engaged in easily now feel draining or unnecessary. You may have found yourself pulling back, not out of rejection, but out of a quiet awareness that something no longer aligns the way it used to. Situations that once felt normal now feel heavy. Environments that once felt comfortable now feel restrictive. This is not confusion. This is recalibration. Your spirit is adjusting to a new level of awareness, and that adjustment naturally creates distance between you and what no longer fits where you are being positioned. At the same time, there may be things around you that seem to be slowing down. Plans that once moved forward with ease may now feel delayed. Responses you expected quickly may now take longer. Doors that appeared open may suddenly feel uncertain. And this can feel frustrating if you look at it only from the surface. But beneath that surface, something intentional is happening. The shift is not only about removing what does not belong. It is also about pausing what is not yet ready. Because timing is not just about movement. It is also about preparation. This is where many misunderstand what is happening. They interpret the shift as resistance, as something going wrong, as something being blocked. But in reality, it is alignment taking place. Because not every opportunity that appears is meant to be pursued immediately. Not every connection that feels available is meant to be maintained. Not every path that seems open is meant to be walked. And when you are being repositioned, there is a refining process that takes place, where what is misaligned begins to lose its grip on you. You may also notice changes within yourself that you cannot fully explain. A heightened awareness, a stronger sense of discernment, a deeper sensitivity to tone, to intention, to what is said and what is not said. You are picking up on things you might have overlooked before. You are noticing patterns that once went unnoticed. This is not overthinking. This is clarity and greasing. This is your perception sharpening in response to the shift that is already unfolding around you. There is also an emotional aspect to this transition that cannot be ignored. Because as things begin to shift, there can be moments of uncertainty. Moments where you question whether you are interpreting things correctly. Moments where you wonder if you are pulling away too much or reading too deeply into situations. But this is where you must trust what is happening within you. Because this shift is not designed to isolate you without purpose. It is designed to align you with what is true, even if that truth requires temporary distance from what is familiar. At the same time, there may be people around you who do not recognize this shift. They may continue as they always have, unaware of what you are sensing, unaware of what is changing within you. And this can create a sense of disconnect. Not because there is conflict, but because there is difference in awareness. You are seeing something they are not yet seeing. You are feeling something they are not yet feeling. And that difference can make interactions feel uneven, even when nothing obvious has changed on the surface. This is why it is important not to force things to remain as they were. because the shift you are experiencing is not meant to be reversed. It is meant to be followed. It is guiding you away from what no longer supports your path and toward what is being prepared for you next. But that movement requires trust. It requires you to allow things to unfold without trying to control every outcome. It requires you to remain grounded even when clarity is still forming. There is also something unfolding externally that you may not yet see clearly, but you will begin to recognize it soon. Situations will begin to reveal their true nature. Patterns will become more obvious. Intentions will become clearer. And when that happens, you will understand why the shift had to begin before the full picture was visible. Because if everything were revealed at once, it could overwhelm you. Instead, you are being guided step by step, layer by layer, into a clearer understanding of what is changing and why. So do not resist what you are feeling. Do not dismiss what you are noticing. Do not rush to return to what once felt comfortable simply because it is familiar. Because the shift is already in motion, and it is moving with purpose. You are not being left behind. You are being moved into position. And even if you cannot see the full outcome yet, you can trust that what is being adjusted now is preparing you for what comes next. Type "I trust the shift" in the comments if you receive this message. Blessing code 4141 is now aligning your path. There has been a pattern forming within you, one that you may have tried to dismiss, rationalize, or even ignore because it did not come with clear explanations. It came as feelings, impressions, subtle nudges that did not always make logical sense in the moment. But now you are beginning to understand that what you have been feeling was never random. It was never meaningless. It was never something to brush aside. It was communication. It was awareness. It was a series of warning signs placed within your spirit to prepare you for what is unfolding around you. Think back to the moments when something felt off, even when everything looked fine on the surface. A conversation that seemed normal but left you unsettled afterward. A situation that should have felt right but carried a quiet discomfort you could not explain. A decision that looked good logically, yet something inside you hesitated, pulling you back without clear reasoning. These moments were not confusion. They were clarity trying to reach you before your mind could fully understand what your spirit had already recognized. You have also experienced moments where your energy shifted suddenly in certain environments or around certain people. Not dramatically, not in a way that caused immediate conflict, but in a way that made you feel slightly out of place, slightly disconnected, slightly uneasy. And perhaps you questioned yourself in those moments. Perhaps you told yourself you were reading too much into things. Perhaps you chose to ignore it for the sake of maintaining peace or avoiding unnecessary tension. But those signals were not misplaced. They were precise. They were intentional. Here is a reason why these feelings have been increasing rather than fading. Because the closer you move toward a critical point in your path, the clearer these signals must become. You are not being left to navigate blindly. You are being equipped with perception. But perception only works if it is acknowledged. If it is ignored repeatedly, it loses its effectiveness. Not because it disappears, but because it becomes easier to overlook. And this is where many people miss what they were meant to see. You may have also noticed patterns repeating themselves in subtle ways. Similar situations appearing in different forms. Similar conversations happening with different people. Similar outcomes occurring despite different circumstances. These patterns are not coincidences. They are indicators. They are showing you something that requires your attention. They are highlighting areas where awareness is needed before those patterns deepen or solidify into something more difficult to redirect. At the same time, there have likely been moments where you felt an unexpected pull in a different direction. A thought that came out of nowhere. a sudden urge to step back, to pause, to reconsider. These moments may not have come with full explanations, but they carried a sense of importance. And whether you followed them or not, they left an impression. Because they were not random thoughts. They were guidance attempting to redirect you before something became more complicated. There is also an emotional layer to these warning signs that cannot be ignored. Because they do not always come as calm signals. Sometimes they come as restlessness, as frustration without a clear source, as a sense of disconnection even when everything appears stable. These feelings are not meant to destabilize you. They are meant to disrupt your comfort just enough to draw your attention. Because if everything felt completely stable, you might not recognize the need to look deeper. You must understand that these warning signs are not meant to create fear. They are meant to create awareness. There is a difference. Fear pushes you into reaction without clarity. Awareness brings you into observation with intention. And right now, you are being called into awareness. To notice without panic. To observe without immediately reacting. To recognize what is being shown to you without dismissing it simply because it is not fully explained yet. You may begin to see connections between these signals more clearly now. Moments that once seemed isolated may begin to form a pattern. Feelings that once seemed unrelated may begin to align into a clearer understanding. And as this happens, you will start to recognize that nothing you felt was SLUCHAIKAKI. It was all part of a larger picture, being revealed gradually, in a way that allows you to process it without being overwhelmed. This is also the moment where you must choose how you respond to what you have been shown. You can continue to question it, to doubt it, to minimize it. Or you can accept that what you have been feeling carries meaning and begin to move with that awareness. Not impulsively, not emotionally, but intentionally. Because once you recognize a warning sign, ignoring it no longer keeps you unaware. It becomes a choice. You are not being asked to have every answer right now. You are being asked to acknowledge what you already sense. To trust that your awareness has been increasing for a reason. To understand that these signals were not meant to confuse you, but to prepare you. Because what comes next will require you to recognize what is aligned and what is not, without hesitation. So do not dismiss what you have felt. Do not silence what has been trying to speak within you. Do not return to a state of unawareness simply because it feels easier. Because what you have been sensing is real. And it has been guiding you toward this moment of clarity. Type ISE clearly now in the comments if you receive this message. Blessing code 5252 is now sharpening your discernment. What you are experiencing is not surface level. It is not just emotional shifts, not just changing circumstances, not just random discomfort or coincidence. There is a deeper layer beneath everything you have been sensing. And that layer is spiritual. This is not simply about what is happening around you. It is about what is happening over you, round your path, and within the direction your life is taking. Because when a path carries purpose, it also attracts resistance. Not always loud, not always obvious, but strategic, subtle, and persistent. You must understand this clearly now. The tension you have been feeling is not just about people or situations. It is about positioning. It is about alignment. It is about whether you continue moving toward what has been prepared for you or whether you become distracted, delayed, or redirected without realizing it. This is why the signals have been increasing. This is why your awareness has been sharpening. Because the closer you get to a decisive point, the more active the pressure becomes. This battle does not always appear as conflict. It rarely announces itself openly. Instead, it works through distraction, through confusion, through misdirection. It shows up as opportunities that seem right but carry hidden complications. It shows up as conversations that shift your focus away from what matters. It shows up as emotional reactions that pull you out of clarity and into impulse. And if you are not aware, you can mistake these things as normal parts of life rather than recognizing them as moments that require discernment. There have been instances where you felt pulled in two directions at once. One part of you felt certain, grounded, aware of what you should do. Another part felt uncertain, questioning, tempted to go back to what is familiar even if it no longer feels right. That internal tension is not self-huchakaki. It is the result of competing influences over your direction. One pulling you toward alignment, the other pulling you toward delay or distraction. And the outcome depends on which one you choose to follow. This is why clarity is so important in this moment. Because without clarity, reaction takes over. And reaction is where many lose their position. They respond to what they feel in the moment instead of what they know at a deeper level. They allow temporary emotions to override long-term awareness. They move quickly to resolve discomfort instead of pausing to understand what the discomfort is revealing. And in doing so, they step into paths that were never meant for them. You are not being called to react. You are being called to recognize, to see what is happening beneath the surface of what appears ordinary, to understand that not every delay is negative and not every opportunity is beneficial, to know that just because something is available does not mean it is aligned, and just because something feels challenging does not mean it should be avoided. Discernment is required to distinguish between what is a distraction and what is a necessary part of your path. There is also a level of resistance that appears when growth is near. You may have noticed that just as you begin to gain clarity, something attempts to interrupt it. Just as you start to feel grounded, something tries to shake that stability. This is not self-huchakaki. It is a pattern. Because clarity makes you harder to misdirect. Stability makes you harder to influence. And awareness makes you harder to distract. So the moment those begin to strengthen, pressure increases in subtle ways to pull you back into uncertainty. But here is what must remain clear to you. This battle is not greater than your ability to navigate it. It only becomes effective when it goes unnoticed. When you move without awareness, when you dismiss what you feel, when you ignore the signals that have been increasing within you. But now that you are aware, now that you can recognize the patterns, now that you understand that there is more happening than what appears on the surface, your position changes. You begin to move differently. You begin to pause where you once rushed. You begin to question where you once assumed. You begin to observe where you once reacted. And this shift alone changes how things unfold around you. Because awareness distorts patterns that rely on automatic responses. It creates space for intentional movement. It allows you to remain grounded even when external situations try to pull you in different directions. You are not being placed in this moment without support. The same awareness that has been increasing within you is part of that support. It is guiding you. It is alerting you. It is preparing you to move with intention rather than impulse. But it requires your participation. It requires you to trust what you sense, even when it is not fully explained yet. It requires you to remain steady, even when things around you seem to shift unpredictably. So recognize this for what it is. Not chaos. Not self-huchakaki. Not confusion without purpose. This is a moment of spiritual positioning. A moment where your awareness determines your direction. A moment where your response determines whether you move forward in alignment or become delayed by distraction. Stay grounded. Stay aware. Stay intentional. Because what is unfolding around your path is not insignificant. And how you move within it will shape what comes next. Type "I walk in discernment" in the comments if you receive this message. Blessing code 6363 is now strengthening your awareness. You have now arrived at a moment where awareness alone is no longer enough. Up until this point, you have been shown, you have been stirred, you have been awakened to what is happening around you. But awareness always leads to a decision. And that decision is not always loud or dramatic. Sometimes it is quiet, internal, almost invisible to anyone else. Yet it carries weight that reaches far beyond the moment in which it is made. Because now, you are standing between two paths, obedience or delay. Obedience does not always feel easy. It does not always align with what is comfortable, familiar, or expected by others. It often requires you to move before you have full explanation, to trust what you sense before it is fully confirmed externally. It asks you to step forward when part of you would rather wait, to release what feels secure because you recognize it is no longer aligned. And this is where many hesitate, not because they do not understand what they feel, but because acting on it requires change. Delay, on the other hand, feels easier in the moment. It feels like giving yourself more time, more space, more room to think things through. It feels like safety. But delay has a subtle effect that is often overlooked. It keeps you in the same position while everything around you continues to move. It creates a gap between awareness and action. And in that gap, clarity can begin to fade, distractions can begin to grow, and what once felt certain can begin to feel distant. You have experienced this before. Moments where you knew what needed to be done but chose to wait. Moments where you felt a clear direction, but allowed doubt or comfort to slow your response. And over time, that clarity did not remain as strong as it was in the beginning. Not because it was wrong, but because it was not acted upon. This is why this moment carries urgency. Because what you are sensing now is clear for a reason. It is meant to be followed while it is strong, not revisited after it had been diluted by overthinking or external influence. There is also something deeper at play here. Obedience aligns you with movement. It places you in position with what is unfolding next. It allows you to step into what is being prepared rather than reacting to it after it has already taken shape. Delay, however, keeps you observing from a distance. It keeps you slightly out of alignment, not completely disconnected, but not fully positioned either. And in moments where timing matters, that difference becomes significant. This does not mean you are being asked to act impulsively or without thought. It means you are being asked to trust what has already been revealed to you. To recognize that the clarity you have received is not incomplete by accident. It is complete enough for the step you are meant to take now. You are not required to see the entire path. You are required to move with the part that has been shown. There may also be a pull within you to seek confirmation from others, to look for reassurance before making a decision. This is natural, but it can also become a source of delay if it overrides what you already know internally. Because not everyone around you is seeing what you are seeing. Not everyone is feeling what you are feeling. And if you rely too heavily on external validation, you risk stepping away from the clarity that was given to you directly. At the same time, you may feel resistance. Not loud, not obvious, but subtle. A hesitation, a questioning, a quiet voice suggesting that waiting might be safer. This resistance is not always fear, but it is something you must recognize, because it often appears strongest right before a necessary step is taken. It does not mean the step is wrong. It means the step carries weight. And anything that carries weight will naturally come with resistance before it is fully embraced. You are not being asked to have complete certainty. You are being asked to have trust. Trust in what has been unfolding within you. Trust in the awareness that hath been increasing. Trust in the fact that you have not arrived at this moment SLUCHAIKAKI. You have been guided here, step by step, signal by signal, realization by realization. And now, the next part requires your response. Obedience will not always remove discomfort immediately, but it will bring alignment. Delay may reduce discomfort temporarily, but it will extend uncertainty. And this is the choice before you, not between right and wrong in a simple sense, but between moving with what is aligned or remaining in what is no longer meant to hold you. So pause, not to hesitate, but to recognize. You already know more than you are telling yourself. You already feel what needs to be acknowledged. And this moment is not asking you to figure everything out. It is asking you to respond to what is already clear. Type "I choose alignment" in the comments if you receive this message. Blessing code 7474 is now guiding your decisions. There comes a point in every transformation where holding on becomes more harmful than letting go. Not because what you are holding is entirely wrong, not because everything connected to it was negative, but because it no longer fits where you are being positioned. And this is the point you are entering now. A season of separation. Not forced, not chaotic, but necessary. Intentional. Precise. You may already feel it beginning. A quiet distancing. A shift in how you respond. A change in what you tolerate. Things that once felt natural now feel strained. Conversations that once flowed now feel heavy. Connections that once felt secure now feel uncertain. This is not SLUCHAIKAKI. This is the beginning of release. And release is not always dramatic. It does not always come with confrontation or clear endings. Sometimes it happens internally first. A decision within you to no longer engage the same way. A realization that something has run its course. A recognition that staying where you are will cost you more than moving forward without it. And this internal shift is often the most important part, because it changes how you interact with everything around you before anything visibly changes on the outside. There are attachments that were meant for a previous version of you. Roles you played, expectations you carried, dynamics you maintained. And for a time, they served a purpose. They taught you, shaped you, supported you in ways that were necessary then. But what once supported you can begin to limit you when your awareness expands beyond it. And this is where separation becomes unavoidable. Not as rejection, but as realignment. You may find yourself questioning whether you are being too distant, too observant, too selective. You may wonder if you are overanalyzing or pulling back unnecessarily. But this is where you must trust the shift, because what is being released is not being taken from you. It is being removed to make space for what aligns with where you are going next. There will also be moments where the pull to return feels strong. Familiarity has a way of calling you back, especially when the new path is not yet fully visible. You may feel tempted to re-engage in the same patterns, to reconnect in the same ways, to restore what once felt comfortable. But you must ask yourself honestly, does returning bring alignment, or does it simply bring temporary relief from the discomfort of change? Because separation often feels uncomfortable before it feels right. It creates space where there was once familiarity. It creates silence where there was once noise. And in that space, you are faced with yourself more clearly, without distraction, without constant interaction, without the patterns that once filled your time and attention. And this can feel unfamiliar, even unsettling at first. But it is also where clarity deepens. Not everything that is leaving your life is meant to return. Not every connection is meant to continue into your next phase. And holding on out of habit, loyalty, or fear of change will only delay what is trying to align. This does not mean you must reject people or situations harshly. It means you must recognize what no longer fits and allow distance to form naturally where it is needed. There is also a difference between separation and isolation. Separation is purposeful. It creates alignment. It brings clarity. Isolation, however, disconnects without direction. And what you are experiencing now is not isolation. It is guided separation. You are not being removed from everything. You are being repositioned toward what is aligned. As this continues, you may notice that certain things fall away without effort. Conversations become less frequent. Opportunities lose their appeal. Interactions shift without force. This is not loss. This is adjustment. Because when your internal alignment changes, your external environment begins to respond to that change. And here is something important to understand. You do not need to explain every shift to everyone. Not everyone will understand why you are pulling back, why you are changing, why you are no longer engaging the same way. And that is okay. This process is not about maintaining appearances. It is about maintaining alignment. And alignment sometimes requires quiet decisions that are not announced, only live. This season is refining your path. It is clearing what no longer belongs so that what is meant for you can come into place without interference. And while it may feel like loss in certain moments, it is actually preparation. Because what comes next will require space, clarity, and focus that cannot exist if you remain tied to what no longer aligns. So allow the separation. Do not resist it. Do not rush to fill the space it creates. Do not force things back into place simply because they once fit. Trust that what is being released now is part of what is positioning you for what comes next. Type "I release" with trust in the comments if you receive this message. Blessing code 8585 is now clearing your path. As you step into this sacred season of release, understand that every act of obedience you make opens a door not just for you, but for countless others who are still searching for clarity. When you choose to support this mission through Super Thanks with a PayPal link in the description, you are sowing into a harvest of awakening that heaven is actively multiplying. The word speaks that those who sow in faith will reap in abundance, and this is not distant truth. It is a living promise breathing over your life right now. I feel led to say this clearly. When you give in this moment, you are not losing. You are planting seeds that will return to you in ways you cannot yet see. Let your action reflect your alignment. Let your giving become a prophetic response. Step forward now and release what you are led to release, because this moment carries more power than you realize. As everything begins to shift, as separation takes place, as awareness deepens and decisions become more intentional, there is something you must hold firmly in your understanding. You are not exposed in this process. You are not unguarded. You are not navigating this transition alone. There is a covering over you that has been active long before you became aware of it, and it is still active now, more precisely than ever. This is not protection that removes you from every challenge, but protection that positions you correctly within it. You may not always see it directly, but you have already experienced it. Moments where something did not happen the way you expected, and later you realized it was better that it did. Situations where you felt delayed or redirected, only to understand later that what you avoided would not have served you. Conversations that never happened, connections that never fully formed, paths that never fully opened. At the time, these may have felt confusing or even disappointing. But looking back, you can see that there was a pattern of being guided away from what was not aligned. That is protection. And now, as you move through this current shift, that protection is becoming more active, not less. Because the more aligned you become, the more intentional that protection must be. Not to isolate you, not to limit you, but to ensure that what enters your path matches where you are being positioned. This is why certain things are falling away. This is why certain doors are not opening as easily. This is why certain interactions feel different. It is not absence. It is filtering. There is a difference between being restricted and being protected. Restriction holds you back without purpose. Protection redirects you with intention. And right now, what you are experiencing is not restriction. It is redirection guided by awareness that is increasing within you. You are being guided away from what could misalign you and toward what will support where you are going next. You may also notice that your tolerance for certain things has decreased. Things you once overlooked now stand out. Behaviors you once accepted now feel misaligned. This is not judgment. This is discernment. And discernment is part of your protection, because it allows you to recognize what belongs and what does not before it becomes a deeper involvement. At the same time, there may be moments where you question whether you are being too cautious, too selective, too distant. But this is where you must trust what is unfolding, because protection does not always feel comfortable. It often requires you to step back when you would rather step forward, to pause when you would rather move quickly, to observe when you would rather engage. And while this may feel unfamiliar, it is also what keeps you aligned. There is also a layer of unseen support that you must acknowledge, even if you cannot fully define it. You have not arrived at this point by Hesel. You have been guided, corrected, redirected, and supported in ways that were not always visible at the time. And that support has not stopped. It is continuing now, even in moments where you feel uncertain or incomplete in your understanding. This is why you must remain grounded rather than reactive. Because protection works most effectively when you are aware enough to recognize it. When you pause instead of rushing. When you listen instead of assuming. When you trust what you sense rather than overriding it for the sake of convenience or comfort. Your awareness and your protection are working together. One without the other would not be as effective. You are also being positioned to move with more confidence, not less. Because protection is not meant to make you hesitant. It is meant to make you precise. It allows you to move forward without second-guessing every step, because you are no longer operating blindly. You are operating with awareness that has been sharpened through everything you have experienced leading up to this moment. As you continue, you may notice that certain paths begin to open more clearly, while others fade without effort. This is not coincidence. This is alignment becoming visible. Protection is not only about what is removed. It is also about what is allowed. What remains accessible to you will begin to match what is aligned with your path. And what is not aligned will continue to lose its hold without requiring force from you. So do not fear what is changing. Do not question whether you are being left without support. You are not. You are being guided more precisely than before. And even if you cannot see every step ahead, you can trust that you are not walking into anything unguarded. Remain aware. Remain steady. Remain aligned with what you feel rather than what appears convenient. Because the same protection that has carried you this far is still active now, ensuring that what comes next meets you in the right position. Type "I am protected and aligned" in the comments if you receive this message. Blessing code 9696 is now covering your path. You are now approaching a window of time that carries unusual significance. Asabak, not distant but immediate. The next 24 to 72 hours are not just another stretch of ordinary time passing by. They are a period where what has been forming beneath the surface begins to rise into visibility. What you have been sensing internally will begin to reflect externally. and what once felt unclear will start to take shape in ways that are harder to ignore. This does not mean everything will suddenly become obvious all at once. It means that pieces will begin to fall into place. Conversations will shift. Responses will reveal more than expected. Situations that felt neutral will show direction. And as this happens, you will begin to recognize that the awareness you have been building was preparing you for exactly this moment. You may notice that interactions carry more weight than usual. Words spoken casually may hold deeper meaning. A simple exchange may leave a stronger impression than expected. This is because you are no longer processing things at a surface level. Your awareness has been sharpened, and now it is actively interpreting what is happening around you. What others might overlook, you will notice. What others might dismiss, you will recognize as significant. There may also be moments where something becomes clear in an instant. A realization that settles without confusion. A decision that no longer feels complicated. A shift in perspective that removes the need for further questioning. These moments are not sluchayakatki. They are the result of everything that has been building within you reaching a point of clarity. And when they occur, they will feel different from overthinking or emotional reaction. They will feel steady, grounded, stern. At the same time, you may encounter situations that test your awareness. Not in a dramatic way, but in subtle, precise moments where your response matters. A conversation where you must choose whether to engage or step back. An opportunity where you must decide whether it aligns or simply appears appealing. A situation where you must determine whether to react immediately or observe first. These moments will not come labeled. They will require you to apply what you have been sensing and recognizing. This is where many lose alignment, not because they lacked awareness, but because they acted too quickly. They responded based on habit instead of intention. They returned to familiar patterns instead of following the clarity that had been building. And this is why this moment requires steadiness. Because what unfolds in these hours is not only revealing, it is positioning. You may also notice that certain things come to a natural conclusion. Not forced and abrupt but clear. Conversations that no longer continue. Situations that reach an endpoint. Patterns that no longer repeat. And while this may feel like an ending, it is actually confirmation. Confirmation that what has been shifting internally is now aligning externally. At the same time, there may be openings that begin to present themselves. Not necessarily large or obvious, but subtle indications of direction. A new idea. A new perspective. A new possibility that feels aligned in a way that does not require convincing. These openings will not demand immediate action, but they will invite your awareness. They will give you a glimpse of what is forming ahead, even if it is not fully developed yet. There is also something important to understand about this period. Not everything that appears will be meant for you. Some things will present themselves simply to test your discernment, to see whether you move out of habit or out of alignment, to see whether you follow what feels familiar or what feels true. And this is where your awareness becomes your greatest asset, because you are no longer moving without understanding. You are moving with intention. You must remain grounded in these moments, not reactive, not rushed, not influenced by external pressure or expectation. Because what unfolds in this window is not meant to be controlled. It is meant to be observed, understood, and responded to with clarity. You are not being asked to force outcomes. You are being asked to recognize them. There may also be a sense of acceleration, not chaotic but noticeable. Things that once took longer may begin to move more quickly. Responses may come faster. Realizations may happen more frequently. This is not instability. This is alignment increasing. And when alignment increases, movement follows. So remain present. Remain aware of what is happening in real time. Do not drift into distraction or routine. Do not overlook what feels small or insignificant. Because in this window, small moments carry meaning. Small details reveal direction. And small decisions influence what comes next. You are not being placed in this moment sluchayakaki. You are being positioned within it. And how you move in these next 24 to 72 hours will shape what unfolds immediately after. Not through force, but through alignment. So stay steady. Stay observant. Stay intentional. Because what is beginning to unfold is not random. It is the continuation of everything that has been preparing you for this point. Type I remain alert and aligned in the comments if you receive this message. Blessing code 1010 is now guiding your next steps. Everything you have felt, everything you have observed, everything that has been shifting around you has been leading to this point. Not just awareness, not just understanding, but activation. Because there comes a moment where preparation ends and participation begins. And you are standing in that moment now. This is where you are no longer just noticing what is happening. You are stepping into your role within it. You were never meant to remain passive in this process. You were not given awareness just to observe from a distance. You were given it to move differently, to respond with intention, to step into alignment in a way that changes how your path unfolds. And this is where many hesitate, not because they do not understand, but because stepping into alignment requires responsibility. It requires ownership of your decisions, your direction, and your responses. Activation does not always look dramatic. It does not always come with a single defining moment that changes everything instantly. Often, it begins with small but intentional shifts. The way you respond instead of react. The way you pause instead of rush. The way you choose alignment over convenience. These decisions may seem simple on the surface, but they carry weight because they alter your position. You may feel a sense of readiness mixed with uncertainty. A recognition that something is changing, paired with the question of what exactly you are meant to do next. This is natural, because activation does not require you to see the entire path. It requires you to step into the part that has already been revealed. You are not being asked to predict the future. You are being asked to align with the present moment in a way that supports what is forming ahead. There is also a shift in how you carry yourself that comes with activation. You begin to move with more awareness, more intention, more clarity. You no longer engage in situations the same way. You no longer respond out of habit. You become more selective, not out of fear, but out of understanding. You recognize that where you place your attention, your energy, and your time matters more now than it did before. This is also where boundaries begin to strengthen. Not forced, not defensive, but natural. You start to recognize what deserves your attention and what does not. You begin to step back from what drains you without needing to explain it. You begin to engage more fully with what aligns without hesitation. And the shift creates a different experience around you. Because when your internal position changes, your external interactions follow. There may also be moments where you feel tested, not in a way that overwhelms you, but in a way that requires you to apply what you have learned. Situations that resemble old patterns may appear, giving you the opportunity to respond differently. Conversations may arise that challenge your clarity, asking you to either stay grounded or return to previous reactions. These moments are not setbacks. They are confirmations. They show you that you are no longer where you once were. Activation also brings a deeper sense of responsibility toward your own path. You begin to understand that your direction is not something to leave to chance. It is something to be guided, observed, and intentionally followed. This does not mean controlling every outcome. It means remaining aware of how your choices influence what unfolds. Because once you step into this level of awareness, moving without intention becomes more difficult. You may also notice that your perspective on time begins to change. You become less focused on rushing toward outcomes and more focused on aligning with the right steps. You recognize that moving quickly is not the same as moving correctly, and this allows you to remain steady even when things around you seem to accelerate. There is also a sense of clarity that strengthens within you. Not complete answers, but enough understanding to move forward without hesitation. You begin to trust your perception more. You begin to rely less on external validation and more on internal awareness. And this creates a level of confidence that is not loud, but steady. Not reactive, but grounded. This is what it means to step into your assigned role. Not becoming someone entirely different, but becoming more aligned with who you already are at your core. Removing the distractions, the misalignments, the patterns that once shaped your responses, and moving forward with clarity that has been built through everything you have experienced leading up to this moment. You are not being placed in this position ikaki. You are here because you are ready to move differently, ready to respond with awareness, ready to step into alignment without hesitation. And this activation is not temporary. It is a shift in how you navigate everything that comes next. So do not step back now. Do not return to passive observation. Step forward into what you already know. Move with what has been revealed. Trust the awareness that has been built within you. Because this is your moment to act with intention, not just observe with understanding. Type "I step into my role" in the comments if you receive this message. Blessing code 1111 is now activating your path. This is the moment where everything comes together. Not gradually, not distantly, but now. You have been guided through awareness, through shifts, through separation, through clarity, and now you are standing at the threshold of final alignment. This is not a continuation of preparation. This is a ceiling point. A moment where what you choose, how you respond, and where you stand internally begins to solidify into the direction your path will take moving forward. There are moments in life that pass without lasting impact, and then there are moments like this, where something within you becomes fixed. A decision that is not easily reversed. A realization that cannot be unseen. A level of awareness that changes how you move from this point forward. This is that kind of moment. Quiet on the outside, but decisive on the inside. You are not being forced into anything. You are being invited into alignment. But this invitation carries weight because it will not remain open in the same way indefinitely. What is clear now may not feel as clear if ignored. What is strong within you now may not remain as strong if delayed. This is why this moment matters. Because it is precise. It is positioned. It is timely. You have already been shown what no longer aligns. You have already felt what must be released. You have already recognized the patterns that cannot continue. And you have already sensed the direction that is forming ahead of you. This is not about discovering something new. It is about responding to what has already been revealed. There may still be a part of you that wants to hold on, to keep options open, to delay final decisions just a little longer. But understand this clearly. Holding on to what you know is misaligned does not preserve your path. It divides your focus, and divided focus weakens direction. You are not meant to stand between two positions any longer. You are meant to step fully into alignment with what you now understand. This does not require dramatic action. It requires clarity in your internal position. A decision that you are no longer moving the same way, that you are no longer engaging the same patterns, that you are no longer ignoring what you have clearly seen. And once that decision is made internally, everything else begins to follow naturally. There is also a shift in how your path responds to you once this alignment is sealed. Things that once felt uncertain begin to stabilize. Your actions that once felt unclear begin to sharpen. Movement that once felt slow begins to gain consistency. Not because everything suddenly becomes easy, but because you are no longer working against your own awareness. You may not see immediate results in every area, and that is not the point. The point is that your position changes. And once your position changes, your trajectory follows. What comes next will be built on where you stand now. And that is why this moment carries such significance. You are not the same as you were before this message. Not because of words alone, but because of what has been recognized within you. And recognition brings responsibility. Not heavy, not overwhelming, but real. Because once you see clearly, moving blindly is no longer an option. There may also be a sense of finality in certain areas. Not in a way that feels forced, but in a way that feels settled. A knowing that something has reached its end, even if it has not fully disappeared yet. This is part of the sealing process. It confirms that what you have been sensing is not temporary. It is a shift that will continue beyond this moment. You are not being left to figure everything out at once. You are being asked to stand firmly in what is already clear, to hold your position without second guessing, to trust that what has been revealed was given with purpose. And now, the choice becomes simple, even if it does not feel easy. You either move forward aligned with what you know, or you step back into what you have already outgrown. There is no neutral ground here, because remaining in between is what creates confusion. And confusion is what you have just been brought out of. So stand in clarity. Stand in awareness. Stand in alignment. Because your path is not SLUCHAKI. It is being shaped by what you choose right now. And this is your final call in this moment. Not to rush, not to fear, but to decide. Fully. Clearly. Intentionally. Because once this moment passes, what you have chosen will begin to unfold. Type "I walk in full alignment" in the comments if you receive this message. Blessing code 1212 is now sealing your path. As you stand in this final moment of alignment, understand that your response does not end with you. There are others standing at the same crossroads, waiting for clarity, waiting for direction, waiting for a message like this to reach them in time. When you choose to support this mission through Super Thanks or through the PayPal link in the description and QR code on the screen, you are not giving to a platform. You are sowing into a movement that carries light into places where confusion still holds people back. The word declares that those who sow generously will reap generously, and this is not distant scripture. It is a living principle active in your life right now. I feel this strongly. Your giving in this moment becomes a seed that multiplies into clarity, breakthrough, and alignment for someone else. Do not hesitate, because obedience carries timing, and timing carries blessing. Step into this moment and release your seed now, and watch how it returns to you in ways that exceed what you expect.